have it, the beauty of nature mixed with the handiwork of man's creativity. The Kainji Dam in Niger State. Beautiful scenery there and very, you could say, really calming. I don't know how is it that water is always so calming, whether from the sky or not when you're about to drown in it though, but water has this calming effect on me. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Neota Egbe.
Good morning to you. I'm Kayla Megwa. Welcome again to Sunrise Daily. Kainji Dam, Niger State. In central Nigeria. This dam is really old. Construction started in 64, in 1964, and the opening of this dam was in 1968. And at the time, it cost $209 million for them to make this dam. The question that always comes to our minds whenever we show you these scenes and these historic infrastructure in Nigeria is the maintenance culture. The maintenance culture of these things and the work that they've been able to do all these years. You know, 65 meters, 500, that's in height, and then it's 550 meters in length. It's a very historic, very massive lake, very massive dam, and one that we should all think about, especially now that the rains are here. Maintenance culture, making sure that this dam functions and does what it was created to do, Ayo.
No doubt, Kayla, and it's a good thing that at least you mentioned so people know how old it is. Question one should be asking is, what do we need to do to ensure that at least we have a few more like this? Incidentally, I was seeing, down through Instagram street yesterday, and I saw one picture, or it was a Facebook, a picture or a video of a dam that hadn't been opened in 30 years. Gosh. Wow. And I thankfully, we will never have that kind of thing happen to our dear Kainji Dam. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde. Shall we go straight to the paper? Before we go straight to the papers, well, just to quickly inform you that what are we expecting on Business Morning this morning? Business Morning on Sunrise Daily is taking us down a particular path that is interesting and a number of us have been giving a little bit of attention to, and that is food security in Nigeria, availability or affordability. That's what we'll be talking about during Business Morning on Sunrise Daily today, something you want to listen to. Well, some of you may have seen that video making the rounds, I think it's of African farmers saying that, look, if we don't take some proactive action as soon as possible, things could get worse. So how do we ensure that that does not happen? Because something that he said earlier has happened exactly as he said it. So Chief Zebediah Okorigbenwobo said in those drama skits of those years, to be forewarning is to be forearming. So, all right, so guys, I don't know if that's one of the things you will see on the front pages of the papers today, but hey, let's go to the papers right now.
Today is July the 5th. Here are some of the papers we have for you this morning. The Vanguard newspaper is coming first, and it leads with 21 LGAs in 10 states, FCT submerged in flood. That's according to the federal government. Says no release of water from dams. Cameroon's Lagdo Dam wants states LGs to safeguard lives of Nigerians. All of these you have packed on page 5 of the paper this morning. The front page of the Daily Independent has this one. Tinubu moves to inject 2 trillion naira to reflate Nigeria's economy. Health, social welfare, agric, energy, power sectors to benefit. President inaugurates Presidential Economic Coordination Council. Dangote says economy can be turned around within few months. How that is going to happen, find the details on page 29. Of course, the paper also has the flood story on its front page. 18 state FCT to be affected by river flooding in July. FG warns oceans flooding may worsen ravaging cholera outbreak. The front page of the Nigerian News Direct has the same story. Tinubu to inject 2 trillion naira in economy, inaugurates PECC. Details on page 6. The Blueprint newspaper has, at inauguration of Dangote Elumelu PECC, Tinubu unveils 2 trillion naira economic stabilization plan, targets 4.7 million jobs, tasks team on energy, oil and gas, agriculture, others, with capacity to turn economy around within months. Again, the details continue on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Now, some other stories making the headlines this morning includes this one on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Parties kick as courts deliver upsets in Edo Rivers Power Games. Details on page 6 of the paper this morning. This Nigeria, appeal court reinstates Rivers Speaker Amewule, 24 other lawmakers. Court nullifies Edo PDP Guba Primary. Federal court in Kano says only EFCC can probe ex-governor Kanduje. Details on the inside pages of this Nigerian newspaper. New Telegraph has the same story. Court rulings upturn political landscape in Edo Rivers. The story has details on the inside pages. At the bottom of the front page of New Telegraph this morning, Tinubu earmarks 2 trillion naira for economic stabilization. And right beside that one, FG to Nigerians. Expect more rains, flooding in 19 states, FCT. Details on the inside pages of the paper. Those are some of the papers we have for you this morning.
Well, the floods is definitely still a major concern, and that's one thing I'd like us to talk about this morning. For the federal government to have come out to make that statement saying there are 21 local governments in 10 states that are directly affected by this, and a number of others, papers on the front pages today are indicating different number of states in the nation. The fact that states are affected is something that should give us concern. Now, what can be done to mitigate? A number of us must have seen videos on social media of cars, vehicles that were submerged. Some are even making fun already that mechanics, automobile engineers or whatever you want to call them, they are right now quite happy that they're going to be getting calls from those who have cars that may have been submerged and that may be developing one fault or the other right now. It's not a good thing, but hey, it is here now. And in the time where we're still wondering how to make ends meet, now this, it is not a luxury to have a vehicle. It is a necessity to a large extent until we're able to fix our infrastructure to ensure that public transportation can take care of some of these things. So it really is a concern. Now the federal government has put it at the doorstep of the states. What are the steps to say? And I'm guessing that we're going to be waiting for them. Well, let's hear what the states are saying right now, or should be saying, or will be saying, in response to what the federal government has said so far. It has also been said that some of the issues that we're having, particularly concerning this flooding issue, is because of our own activities, the things that we do, the things that we do not do. Gratifying to know that the authorities at various levels are taking certain proactive action. But can we also anticipate this? As we discussed with Mrs. Kisha yesterday of the Federal Controller of Works in Lagos, well, she agrees that if the local government administrations were as effective as they ought to be, they are more, they have more direct access and they are much closer to the people to anticipate some of the things that could go wrong and mitigate them well ahead. States, Loma, LASEPA, they are state government agencies, and they really are doing a wonderful job. But if the local government administrations are as effective as they ought to be, environmental officers in the local government areas will be able to go around and ensure that things are done decently and in order. I'm hoping that this will be the last of its kind in this rainy season. We are told that more rains are coming, but are we still going to have the same experiences as we have had so far? Is it going to be better or worse? Only time will tell. And I'm hoping that we do not have to have any loss of lives and property simply because we are blessed by good weather. Nyota and Kela.
Ayo, that story, which cuts across a couple of other papers. I see it on the front page from Guardian. Guardian says 21 local government and 10 states. Daily Independent says 18 states and the FCT will be affected by river flooding in the month of July. This question or this conversation around floods, it's not a new conversation. We've been having these conversations over and over and over again. Indeed, yesterday, you spoke with the Federal Controller of Works in Lagos, and she talks about the things that need to be done. But I was fortunate to speak with the Director General of the Hydrological Services Agency, and he talks about the water table and what needs to be done, how the states and the government and individuals, there are things that can be done. These warnings did not start today. The warnings or the predictions about the rains and the floods started at the beginning of the year, before the rains even set in. Dredge your gutters, dredge the water channels, the lower levels of the land where water can pass through flood plains, clear buildings in that area or whatever it might be impeding the flow of water, clear all of those things so that when the flood waters come, they can just flow through. Well, guess what? Nobody seems to listen to these things. It's considered another set of predictions. What's the guarantee? And the other side, you hear people say that, okay, they said it's going to rain today. What's the guarantee that it will rain? For instance, today's temperature in Abuja is 23 degrees and it's cloudy so far. There's a likelihood of rains later on. But does that tally with the predictions of NIMET? So you see back and forth. Those questions come back and forth. But it's not about the questions. It's what we're doing to ensure that we do not experience the same things we've been experiencing year in, year out. It will rain for 1, 2, 3 hours, and next you see flash floods. And those waters, it might look like after a while they disappear, right? But guess what happens? They percolate into the earth and the water table rises over and over again, and it seeps into the river channels. After a while, the river channels the water levels in the river channels grow. And before you know it, we're seeing a flood again by the time the dams are open. And of course, the federal government told us that Lagdo Dam has not been opened yet. When it opens, what will happen?
Yeah, when it comes to flooding in Nigeria, it's become very disappointing that this happens every year. And I believe that it's partly because of the fact that there's no accountability. There's no accountability mechanism. There's nothing that compels state governments to do the right thing on time. So what usually happens every year is that we hear these disappointing stories. Oh, so-and-so states will be submerged. Then we now hear the governor cry out, oh, farmlands, my people, has been destroyed, and this and this and that and that. And then Nigerians go on social media and do videos and say, oh my God, flood, people have died, oh my God. And that's it. That's it. If more can be done, if accountability can be ensured, if it is now a situation where we get these governors, if they have to pay somehow for this carelessness, because it is a sign of bad governance. Whether the people want to hear it or not, it's the truth. If your state is constantly submerged, there's something you're not doing. There's something that is not happening. There's something that you're supposed to do. I understand that sometimes it can be the people. We heard Madam Keisha yesterday say that, that people are very irresponsible, blocking up. In fact, we saw videos day before yesterday. During the floods, people were throwing refuse into the flood. That shows you a different level of irresponsibility. But that's why there's government. Government has a job to do ensuring that people do the right thing. There's a phrase that I heard many years ago, the law doesn't change the heart, but it will tame the heartless. So if there's some way to compel people to do the right thing, compel subnationals to do the right thing, so we do not have this recurring decimal every single year, and then we do our videos and we come on TV and we all talk about it and it's done, and the same thing happens the next year. That has to be checked.
Well, as interesting as it might be, all the papers and the efforts of the federal government to revive the economy, Vanguard talks about over 3,000 fake graduates coming from JAM. That's on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. A plethora of headline stories on different newspaper breaks. But that would end a look at some of the dailies. Sunrise Daily will be back in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now, yesterday was a busy day in the courts. Hardly it had to do with political matters. You had that case of the nullification of the PDP governorship election primaries ahead of the Edo governorship elections in the court. And the court nullified the primaries of the People's Democratic Party for Well, you get to know the reasons why that happened. And that's all we're going to start out our conversation with today. And sitting in the studio here with us is Adeyemi Kamaldeen Ajibade, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who's a legal advisor to the People's Democratic Party and former Attorney General in Kwara State. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here. So before we get into this, the judgment yesterday that nullified your primaries in Edo State, let's start out with the other case that also happened yesterday, the appeal court judgment in Rivers State. What's your take on that?
Well, I think the media was misinformed about both judgments.
Really?
Yes, both that of Rivers and Edo. To start with Rivers, what went before the Court of Appeal is purely issue bordering on jurisdiction of the State High Court. If you remember, it was the State High Court that gave an injunction restraining the defected member, restraining them from performing duties, having defected from their political party. So the matter actually before the State High Court was not issue of defection. The issue was, having defected, you should no longer carry out your duties and restrain the state government. So what actually happened before the Court of Appeal yesterday, the judgment was purely on issue of jurisdiction. The Court of Appeal held that owing to provision of section 272, subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended 1999, that the State High Court has no jurisdiction to dabble into issue of defection of members of House of Assembly. So the matter was not heard on the merit. It was not heard on the merit. There's nowhere in that judgment where the judgment pronounced that they are members or they've not defected, they still remain members. No. Once a court declined jurisdiction, then whatever happened thereafter, they said the court will not make any pronouncement on that. So that was exactly what happened in that of Rivers. So it's purely issue of jurisdiction that occurred.
So let's come back to the Edo matter, which is why you're sitting down here. So the court has said that, let me just read what he said here. The court held that though INEC first filed a memorandum of appearance in the suit, it was unfortunate that the commission did not file any process in that case. That's about INEC. But for your party, that the exhibit tendered by the party was bereft of evidence. So that you tendered an evidence to say you actually held a primary, but it was bereft of evidence.
Well, as counsel in the matter, because I led the team of PDP, I wouldn't want to go into analyzing the judgment or criticizing the judgment or whatever. But all I'm here to do is to correct the impression and also to caution media houses. Because what happened yesterday, a lawyer came out of the court and addressed the press that the court has nullified the primary of PDP and that the court has restrained Asue Godalo and disqualified him from contesting the election. That was not the position. The judgment of the court did not even make any pronouncement on Godalo. The judgment of the court did not talk about the primary of PDP. What the judgment of the only order which the court made there was a mandatory injunction, and that's what they asked for. The court is not for that Christmas. So don't bother with the content. I don't want to go into the content or what happened or how we arrive here or there.
Why? Why not? Because it is the content that gives us exactly what he said.
Because you don't have capacity to review the judgment of the court here.
No, we heard what the court said.
Yes.
And he just read out for you what the court said.
Yes.
And you're saying that it is wrong? Is what the court said that we have listened to since yesterday, are you saying that that is wrong?
The decision of the court, that is what should concern you. You should be concerned with the decision of the court. What was the decision of the court? Did you hear the court pronounce? If you have your media in court, present in court, did the court pronounce that the primary of PDP held in Edo has been nullified?
Okay, so
no,
help us walk through it.
Yes.
So what was said in that court?
What was said in the decision of the court was only one decision that was taken, that was read out, and that is mandatory injunction restraining first, second, third, and fourth from excluding the delegates. Those are that is the plaintiff from participating in the primary of the party. are no more.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't know which primary they're talking about now, because the primary has been concluded. There was no consequential order.
If a primary has been concluded,
yes,
and they said these people are restrained from participating in that primary that has been concluded.
No, they're not restrained participating that we are injuncted. We should allow them to participate.
Doesn't that mean that that primary was nullified?
No, you don't read into that. If you go back to Section 84, subsection 14 of the Electoral Act, that was what the new Electoral Act has come to cure. It has come to cure the fact that in the past, you find somebody that did not participate in primary coming to challenge a primary in court, nullifying primary, creating problem in the electoral process. And that was the essence of introducing that Section 84, subsection 14, that gave that whoever, an aspirant is the only competent person to question a primary election. These people you are talking about, they said they are delegates. If you read the provision of Section 84, I'm sure maybe you have a copy there of the Electoral Act 2022, you can see what he said. He's only an aspirant that is dissatisfied. It's a different ballgame entirely. If, for example, an aspirant that participated in the election came before the court and saying that, look, these plaintiffs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, accredited delegates were not allowed to participate in the primary because of this, nullify this primary, because if they have participated in this primary, they will have voted for me. But it was the other way around.
So you know, with everything that happened,
yes,
what it did, you're saying media houses were misinformed.
Yes.
Now, with everything that happened, the consequence of the information that the media houses and every newspaper really today has carried is that, okay, so we stay looking at parallels. Before Edo State's PDP goes through what happened in Zamfara State APC with the primaries situation, so people stay getting scared. Is the PDP going to have a candidate? It's in September, isn't it? Is the PDP going to have a candidate in September? Are they going to lose all their seats? Talk to us about what you think is going to happen come September with the PDP in the governorship elections.
Certainly, we have a candidate in Edo, in Asue Ighodalo. This judgment has not disqualified our candidate. This judgment has not set aside the primary we conducted. It's a different ball game, which I explained earlier. If it was an aspirant that approached the court, asking that, look, my people have been disenfranchised because of this number of my people that were disenfranchised, that was why this election should be set aside, and that not even declaring, but ordering a fresh primary. So that is the position. But with this judgment you are talking about, the judgment to me is hanging in the air.
I mean, people need to understand, sorry to butt in there, because you are the national legal advisor of the People's Democratic Party. So just so we can get it clear from you, your candidate, Mr. Ighodalo, is going to run in September.
Is going to run, by God's grace.
Okay, and then there are no fears from the People's Democratic Party that you may lose out?
There are no fears.
No fears whatsoever?
No fears whatsoever. Even on this issue you talked about, I'm just, as a senior lawyer, I don't want to come to television to argue cases. Okay. And that's why you see me so careful that I don't want to go into the matter. This is not the only matter before Honorable Justice Eko on issue of Edo. There are 3 cases before Justice Eko. He has dispensed with 2. And the 2 also borders on the issue of delegates. The preliminary objection we filed, that we said that, look, owing to provision of Section 84, subsection 14, these people has no local standard to question the issue of the primary whatsoever. He upheld them in the other cases, the 2 cases. Judgment was handed down in April, just recently, April, May. But in this case, in his lordship wisdom, overruled our primary objection.
Okay, so let's again.
I don't want to go into analyzing or criticizing a judgment as counsel. As senior counsel, it won't be ethical.
We understand that. But let's look at this matter as regards clarity. Let's understand some things here. So in that judgment, the court held that on a suit filed by Honorable Kelvin Mohammed Gabriel Osai, Okodwa, and Edairo Osage for themselves and on behalf of 378 others, whose names and election results appear on Exhibit A, 8A to 8L. The judge said, there is no doubt that the second defendant, your party, did not comply with the relevant provisions of its own constitution.
That's the way the judge sees it.
That's the way the judge
That's
sees
the way
it.
he sees it.
In your constitution, were these guys legally, by your constitution, supposed to be in that primary?
No.
Why were they not supposed to be there?
Because we have our delegates, which we exhibited. I don't want to go into the nitty of this matter because I want to argue my case before you hear. No, which is it's not ethical at all. So please, if you can just pardon me, I don't want to go into what we have done or this to say whether the judge did not do this or do that. I don't want to. I want you to just excuse me on that. But what I want you to be concerned with, and what really bothers me, is the fact that if the media houses, if they have their judicial correspondence in court, when did the judge pronounce that Asue Godalo has been disqualified from running election or the primary that produced him has been set aside?
Okay, but our correspondent reports that the court declared the primary that produced Ighodalo invalid.
Invalid.
Is that not what the judge said?
That's not what the judge said.
They will respond to you.
Yes,
because you know a lot of legal correspondence.
Let me finish. Let me finish. How will you feel? Just like it happened in Edo in Rivers the last time, when all the media houses reported that a judge of the federal court, having handed that judgment, has pronounced the Emeule-led this thing as members of PDP. Is that not what came out? Until you saw the enroll order. But you have misled the public.
No.
Already. Let me.
That wasn't what happened yesterday. It wasn't every media.
Let me finish.
You made a blanket statement, and that wasn't what happened yesterday. Not every media house reported that. We didn't report that. We said
reported that.
No, we didn't. We did not. We said that judgment was on jurisdiction of the other court.
No, I'm not talking.
And it had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with the seats.
No, I'm not talking of Rivers now. The aspect I was talking about is the other matter at the federal court, where the judge in Rivers, it was reported that the judge in Rivers has affirmed the Martin Emeule-led as members of PDP. That was what reported, but that was
we didn't report that either.
That was
another matter.
We didn't report that either.
The Attorney General of Rivers came out and now brought out the certified true copy of the enroll order.
And he did that here.
Here.
Yes.
And in the enroll order, there was nothing like that. The same thing. How will you feel if later today or Monday, you have the CTC, certified true copy, of the judgment of Justice Seko, and you did not see anything in that judgment that talked about nullifying the PDP primary or disqualifying Ighodalo from participating? How will you feel? And that's the more reason that media houses should not rush.
So with the judgment of yesterday, where do things stand?
The judgment of yesterday talked about mandatory injunction, restraining first, second, third, fourth, from excluding these people from participating in the primary of February 22 or any other date. That was what the court pronounced.
What does that mean again?
It doesn't mean at this moment.
It doesn't mean anything.
At this moment, it doesn't mean anything. That judgment is hanging in here. If you are talking of injunction of over an act that has been concluded, there are things that I don't want to really go into arguing it because it's a case that eventually moved to court of appeal.
You're very willing to go into some things.
I don't want to
go into some other things.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Because when we now say, okay, what does that mean? You say, no, I don't want to go into it. But then you say, no, it means that this...
The meaning, you say, what does that mean?
Yes, what does that mean?
It doesn't mean...
Anything?
To the primary.
Hold on. Yes. A primary held.
Yes.
The judge said, look, you cannot exclude so and so and so and so from participating in that primary that held. Doesn't that nullify that primary?
It doesn't nullify the primary.
I asked you this before. You said no.
It doesn't nullify the primary.
What if you're wrong?
There must be a specific order.
What if you're wrong?
There must be a specific order from the court.
What if you're wrong?
Let me tell you, if a court did not make a pronouncement on a particular issue, you cannot go enforce, because if you are enforcing the judgment of the court, and you must read into the judgment of the court what the court says.
What if you're wrong?
What if
you're wrong in your assertions right now? What if you're wrong and then by September you'll be blamed for not doing the right thing at the right time?
What is the right thing that you are talking about I've not done? No, what is the right thing? The right thing you want me to say now is to say that Ighodalo is disqualified and is no longer to run in our party. If that's what you're expecting, you are failing.
Mr. Ajibade, this conversation will be going back and forth because it looks like you're trying to, yes, being the senior lawyer, you're trying to be very careful not to say what the courts did not say. But we're also trying to be careful to remind you that our reporter was in court, and there are some things, quotes from the judge's rulings that I read out to you, and you said, did the judge say that? Did you agree that the judge said that PDP did not follow its own constitution in running this primary?
And that's what I said, in the wisdom of the judge.
Yes.
You understand?
You agree.
That's the way he sees.
So if you do not follow, and the law says that the parties must abide by their constitutions, right?
Yes.
So if you did not follow your own constitution in running the primary,
you will not understand what I'm talking about. It's a different thing where a case is reviewed down. At the end of your review of the matter by the judge, what was the order?
So it's the order you're concerned about.
It is
and the order
did
not invalidate the PDP.
It did not. And that's why I asked you a question. I said, I haven't put up a very screaming headline that Ighodalo has been disqualified, PDP primary has been nullified. If by the time you receive the CTC of that judgment and you don't find that there, how will you retract that?
Okay, I think I want to.
The damage.
Our colleague in
the damage the media houses have caused.
Over to you.
Will have caused the party.
Well, you know, Mr. Ajibade, yeah, one of the things that's playing in my head about this particular issue that you have raised is what the implication is. I'm glad you continue to remind us that you're a senior lawyer, and I'm sure that one way or the other, you're also a mentor to other legal practitioners. You're an interested party in the case, so it is understandable that you want to help us, get us to understand some things. So on the one hand, according to what we are reading here, it says that the judge nullified the process that produced the results that you are talking about. Is that correct?
No.
So what is correct?
There's not no pronouncement as such.
Okay. So when the judgment says that the court faulted the process, talking about the fact that certain delegates were excluded, were not allowed to do the needful, what is the implication of that?
What I'm talking, you see, Ayo, what I'm talking about, I will just be repeating myself. What I said was that I haven't reviewed the matter. What was the decision of the court? I believe that's what you should be concerned with. And that is what the public should be concerned with. And that is what will be enforceable. You don't go into the body of judgment where there's obiter or whatever, like what happened in Rivers, and start using that as an issue. Okay. My concern here is that did the court pronounce nullifying the primary that produced Ighodalo? No.
Okay, listen to this. Part of the declaration, and please correct if it is wrong. A declaration is hereby made that by virtue of the provisions of Article 50, sub 3 of the Constitution of the second defendant, as amended in 2017, the plaintiffs, together with the lawfully elected delegates, are the lawfully elected Ward Congress delegates in their respective wards, and by virtue of which the delegates cannot exclude them from participating as 3 ad hoc ward delegates at the governorship primary election of Edo State. That is one of the declarations. What does that mean? Give us an understanding.
You see, the legal position, and that's why I said I don't want to go into argument or analyzing or saying this or criticizing the judgment of the court.
Well, this is not a criticism. Just a minute, Mr. Ajibade.
No,
this is not a criticism. Just 1 second. This is not, you are educating us. You are interested party, yes, but you are also educating the public on what these things imply. As I said, and as you also said, you are a senior lawyer. And so many people are going to be waiting on you and trying to help get an understanding of what this all means, irrespective of whether or not you are an interested party in this.
Not just an interested party, Ayo. That's why I'm very being careful, being dragged. I really understand what you are saying, so that I can come out from my shell to say there are people they're looking onto me, they want to learn. No, that is not the issue. I'm not just an interested party. I'm a lead counsel for PDP in that case. When you receive the judgment, you see my name. And so it will be unethical for me now. What I've argued before him, I will criticize him, tell him that what the way the judge has done this is not right, or the way that this is a matter that will eventually end on appeal.
Okay, so what are the people to expect now? Because part of what we understand so far is that more than 300 delegates were excluded. Is that correct?
The question now is that you want to drag me to a place that I want to.
No, it's just a question. It's just a question we're asking.
Let me finish, Ayo. Let me finish. I don't want to do this, but I will go into this one. What I want you to know is that is it the court that we give a political party a delegate, or is a political party because we exhibited list of our delegate, which was certified through copy of the list of our delegate, and that's why I said in the wisdom of the trial judge, that is the way he sees it. So it behoves on us to do the needful in the matter. But where I'm going here is that for any media house to go out there to say that the judgment nullifies the primary of the PDP, that is an aspect I'm saying that is not right.
Okay, two things very quickly.
Yeah.
One, were there delegates that were excluded in the process? Forget what the result of the judgment. So there were no delegates that were
There were
excluded.
no delegates that were excluded.
Okay.
Yes.
So what informed then these presentations before the court?
You're a politician, you're asking what informed it. You know what politician we want to do now. You are a media man, so you know the way the game is being played. Yes.
It's
we
interesting.
have our delegate, authentic delegate list, and we certify our delegate list, and by every standard and by judgment of both appellate court and even Supreme Court, is the political party that determine who are delegates. And we exhibited our delegate list.
So, Mr. Ajibade, another order of the court says an order of mandatory injunction is hereby made, restraining the first, second, and third defendants from unlawfully excluding the plaintiffs and the other lawfully elected delegates whose names and election results appear on the exhibits in the governorship election primaries of the second defendant slated for the date that was also made known. Now, we say this, and I think it's one of the things that you say in law, you don't put something on nothing. So if the process has been faulted by the court, what then can be placed upon it?
Ayo, let me enlighten you about the way the legal process. Let me do the devil's advocate itself. If it's not because we have a time is of the essence of in election matters, then maybe it might be possible for any of the aspirants to pick up that judgment and go to court with that judgment. But 14 days has lapsed. You can't use it.
So in the event, and you've talked about an appeal, in the event that these decisions, these orders, indicate that indeed your candidate has been indeed, in the event that it so happens that a higher court nullifies the election or selection of your candidate in the Edo governorship elections, what happens?
Let me explain something to you. It will not happen. Let me explain one thing. This is not the first time we're having this kind of issue. If you follow our cases, particularly the 2023 election, we had a case, that is a case Ifeanyi in OD against INEC. It went up to Supreme Court on the same, almost on the same issue. There are borders on issue of delegates. The Supreme Court has pronounced on that. And recently, we have another matter in the issue of Silas Onu and INEC. The same thing in Ebonyi. The Court of High pronounced on that and says that it's purely an internal affairs of a political party. And also the issue of locus, because you have to come back to section 84 of section 14. Who has the locus to challenge a primary? 84:14 says he's only an aspirant. What is the purport of that provision? He's only an aspirant. In the other cases that we argued before the same Justice Seku, he upheld a primary objection to say that in delegate election that they don't have locus. So that was why I said in the wisdom of Milord, he has in one case gave us judgment that the people that came before the court on the issue of Congress has no locus. On this one, he says they have locus. So that is in his own wisdom. We don't have anything to say there, but just to tell you that that particular case, we are going to appeal against it.
Okay. Now, how?
It doesn't matter. It might not have, but we cannot keep it there. You can't keep it there.
What's your appeal going to be?
Yes.
If you said it was nothing.
The appeal is that the plaintiff has no local standard.
Okay.
They will bring the matter.
Okay.
Yes.
No, so one of the questions that I would also want to ask then is, I mean, it's clear that there is something that may have gone the way it ought not to have gone. In your opinion, and as legal advisor to your political party, what are the things that may not have gone right in the process that produced the candidate that you have at this moment? Even before the court order.
Nothing has gone wrong. Our primary was held, and I'm sure Channels was one of the media houses that covers the primary at Samuel Ogbomudia Stadium. That I'm surprised some of the questions you're asking me. You were there, you cover that event, and you also witnessed to the fact that the delegates were accredited in Samuel Ogbomudia Stadium. The election took place. The other candidate, maybe sure the former, did not participate. You saw, you were there. So there was nothing to be afraid of about our primary.
So what then do you make of the judgment, the orders that have been granted so far? Now, you're saying that it doesn't hold water, but then you are still going to appeal it. What does that mean?
Yes. That is our work. We have to go on appeal, notwithstanding. Whether it holds water, whether it doesn't hold water, we can get to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal may say, no, this is academics, or this is this, but certainly we'll go on appeal. We cannot leave the judgment hanging.
Now, you may also want to speak to the fact that in the PDP in Edo State, there are some people that are not very, very happy. If that be the case, is there any move to assuage frayed nerves?
Yes, the party, the national headquarters, has set up a reconciliatory committee headed by His Excellency, the governor of Bauchi State. Yes, and I'm sure he's taking steps, and they're moving around to make sure they assuage the frayed nerves and to talk to our people to come back together. You see, it's normal in this kind of issue where you know that you have a winning party. The struggle for the ticket will be very, very fierce. You know that. Yes.
Well, what are the issues, in your own opinion, that need to be resolved before the election?
It's just reconciliation. Telling people to come back together.
Yes, I get that, but what are the issues that informed a need for reconciliation?
Because we have people that are not happy. Certainly, you in every political party, you find that. Once a primary is conducted, those that it's not everybody that has the body to really take a loss.
You know, it's interesting, Mr. Ajibade. It's interesting that you put it that way, that some people are definitely not going to be happy. And that, of course, is politics. But it's only in a very few number of states that we have such occurrences, one of them being Edo State. I don't know if I've heard any such disagreements in certain other political parties, maybe in Lagos, in Oyo, in a number of other places like that. There are always internal mechanisms. There are supposed to be internal mechanisms that should forbid such things getting to the point where members of your party take the party to court. So I'm just wondering if what happened with those mechanisms that informed them, the members of your party being so displeased as to go to court and get this kind of what you call, confusing orders of court.
Yes. Ayo, we have internal mechanism of resolving issues. But I must tell you that it is not in every way that works out. There are people you will talk to, there are people you try to reconcile, there are people that will tell you, I'm okay, it's fine, and the next day you see another thing. It's part of political parties, this thing. And there are also, when you talk of all these issues, there are infiltration from other political parties. You should know that. You have infiltration from other political parties that believe that the only way to weaken this popular candidate is by doing this with the other people that are not happy with his emergence. So it's not a new thing in politics.
So are you implying that this matter before the court is instigated by the opposition party?
I said it's possible. It's possible. I don't want to go into that, but it's possible. Yeah.
No, this is not the first time the PDP has been accused of not going by its own constitution in terms of running primaries and all of that. So how is it that this is like a recurring decimal that goes before the court?
A popular political party will always have this kind of issue. It's not that when anybody comes to tell you that the party is not following constitution and that is the correct position. You see, when there is struggle for power, particularly struggle for ticket, people go, they do whatever at that point.
I was careful with the choice of words.
Yeah.
This appears to be a recurring decimal. You have people going to court to say the party is not going by its own constitution to guide it in running these primaries. Why does that seem to always occur? And you say it's because of the struggle for power?
It happened like that. Struggle for power. Let me ask you, I told you, I said we have 3 cases before Justice Eko. The 2 other matters that Eko gave false judgment, is it not bothered on the issue of constitution of our party? And that's why I said I don't really want to go and talk too much. We have 3 cases there.
These 300.
We want to.
These 381 delegates that were excluded when the primary is held.
I'm sure they are spirits.
This didn't happen.
They are spirits. Yes.
Okay. So because the judge actually mentioned them, so the judge was talking about spirits then.
Yeah,
he said the exclusion of the 381 delegates, including the plaintiffs, were against the provisions of the law.
Yeah, they are spirits.
So there's no truth to what the judge said then.
Deep down
okay. And then the judge also said something very interesting. He said that from the exhibit that was presented by the PDP, the returning officers who prepared the result sheets only sat down in a place and manufactured the outcome of the poll. Also, is this true? Is there any truth to what the judge said on this one?
The question is that is the judge himself? Then let me make some statement. I don't want to you want to drag me into something?
I'm not trying to drag you into anything. I'm just telling you what the judge said.
I don't want to be dragged into that. I don't want to make some statement.
So what exactly do you want to be?
Because I know that the judge is saying that, but the question from what you are reading, that was not said by the plaintiff.
Yeah, it was a judge.
It was the judge saying it.
Yes.
For the plaintiff.
No, you're saying the judge was speaking on behalf of the plaintiff.
I don't want to.
But that's what you just said. You said the judge was speaking for the plaintiff.
Look,
so you're accusing the judge of...
No, I'm not.
Okay, but the judge said these things, though.
I'm not accusing the judge.
But you heard when the judge said these things.
What I'm saying is that what you just read out, was it said position of the plaintiff? It was the position of the judge. That's why you've answered the question yourself. Okay. So you're saying, but the judge was wrong to say these things. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I've not said. Because you see, if we're looking at, the reason why you're all here is because you are the
you are the legal advisor for your party. Now, if these things are happening, and Nelson just mentioned it to you, you didn't answer that question directly.
One?
He said, if it keeps recurring, these things keep happening, the internal democracy, adhering to the rules of your party, is always being attacked by people who are disenfranchised. They believe they were disenfranchised by your party. Isn't that something that, as the legal department of the PDP, you should actually look into?
It's not the job, it's not the job of the legal department.
It's not the job of the legal department to make sure that the rules of the party are adhered to?
Yes, the rules of the party have been adhered to. So it is now left. You see all these issues. Most of the time, when you see a popular political party, particularly as you find it in Edo today, everyone knows that whoever picks the ticket of PDP will win the election. And that is one. Then people looking at the popularity of Asue Ighodalo, you should know that I talked about infiltration into even members of PDP in order to weaken and even discourage, just like the media.
Knowing all of this,
yes,
knowing all these things that you mentioned, doesn't it behove on you to ensure that these loopholes are blocked?
I don't know why you want to believe that we did not follow the rules. You see, anybody can go to court and say you did not do this. It's an issue of it's politics. That is the way you play it in this country. You know it. Yeah. A lot is happening. Yes, of course. We have done presidential election. We have done a lot. You saw everything.
Okay, so in all the other elections you've done, you did not abide by your own rules.
We abide by the rules. That's what I'm saying. So if anybody is coming out to say we have not abide by the rules because he lost out or something, people can always use any means. You know the way politics is being played, yeah. Yes. So
someone says only in the political space that you have the one in charge always correct. Every other person is wrong.
Exactly. Have you ever seen a politician that tell you that I lost? It's either it's rigged out. Have you heard that before?
I mean, I like the fact that you're really confident in all of this, because one of the biggest fears would be that the PDP may lose out.
I know the love our candidate is not this. There's no fear.
There's no fear.
There's no fear, yes.
If you come back,
I'll come back here, but God, come and celebrate.
We'll come and celebrate.
We'll come and celebrate.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We'll be waiting to see how that works out.
Thank you very much.
Before we let you go, just a quick one here. Kayla made a statement earlier, and I actually wrote it down because it struck me. It says, the law doesn't change the heart, it will tame the heartless.
Yeah.
The constitution of your party is considered the law of your party, so to speak. And going by what we understand the judge said your party did not exactly go in line with its own laws. And this, I use an example that it's something that has happened over and over and over again. But you said that's not the situation here. So as we wind down, what's the way forward for the PDP in Edo State? You say, I mean, the reports out there is that the judge annulled the process that led to the result.
Oh, not only.
The process that led to the result.
You are changing the goalposts now.
No, I didn't change the goalposts.
But
that's what we reported.
That's not the breaking you have.
No.
That's not the breaking. The breaking you have is that the court nullifies. That's the breaking.
No, if the process that led to a result is wrong, I mean, in mathematics they say show walking. So you show you're walking, and the result 2 plus 2 is.
In the judgment we don't show walking.
You don't show walking.
You go to the decision.
But that's what the judge said.
No, you go to the decision.
Okay.
Okay. So the decision is that the process. Okay, the decision is that the process that led to that.
If my phone is here, I will have read exactly the way the decision was made at you. Yes.
So what's the way forward right now?
The way forward is we continue our campaign and we tell all our members and all our supporters of Ighodalo that Ighodalo remain the PDP candidate and our primary election remain valid. That's the message.
Okay. I want to thank you so much for coming in this morning, Mr. Adeyemi Kamaldeen Ajibade, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Legal Advisor to the People's Democratic Party and former Attorney General in Kwara State. Thank you for coming in. We do hope that the PDP will go on, while you are appealing, this judgment you say does not exactly affect your primary.
It doesn't.
I hope it works out well for you.
Very well. I assure you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, politicians, Kayla, please, maybe you should try going into politics.
No.
Kayla wouldn't be able to do that.
No, I will not be able to.
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for it at all.
Thank you so much for coming today. Sunrise Daily, we'll take a moment and dive into the business segment, and when we'll come back, we'll look at another matter that happened at the courts again yesterday. Don't go away.
Well, having fun right there, Nelta and Kayla. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to just about 30 minutes of business before we head back to Sunrise Daily Studios. We start as usual in the global space. Oil prices dipped on Friday, but we're on track for a fourth straight week of gains, and we're near the highest levels since late April. On hopes of strong summer fuel demand and some supply concerns, Brent crude futures, which have risen about 7% over the last 4 weeks, slipped 31 cents, that's about 0.4%, to $87.12 a barrel. While WTI of the United States, which have climbed also about 9% over the past week, slipped today and lost 18 cents, that's about 0.2% from Wednesday's close to close, to settle at $83.70. With the U.S. market shut for the 4th of July, we see that of course, that also affected demand for that period, and trading was thin, and there was no settlement for WTI. Oil rose this week on strong summer demand expectations in the U.S., which is the world's largest oil consumer. The U.S. Energy Information Administration reported a massive 12.2 million barrel draw in inventories last week, and that's compared to expectations from analysts of about 700,000. On the supply side, there are reports that Russia's oil producers, Rosneft, has opened a new tab, and Lukoil opens new tab also sharply cut oil exports and affects prices. There you have it right there. And then there's also the Saudi factor. Saudi Arabia, Aramco cut price for flagship Arab Light crude, and it will sell in Asia for about $1.80 cut off from that price. Now let's look at our currency, Naira, which we closely watch. Unfortunately, now we've had, I think, like the third day, we're having a drop in the Naira at the close of trade. NAFEM yesterday went from 1,512 Naira 61 kobo to 1,520 Naira 24 kobo. That's a 0.5% drop, while for NAFEX, it was a bit lower, but we know this is where the main trade takes place. 0.23% drop at NAFEX to close at 1,517 Naira 24 kobo. We haven't had intervention in this market, so perhaps this captures the real value at this time of the Naira, even though it's not a pleasant one, but it's a reality at this time. Now, yesterday, the federal government says that it has secured $5 billion from Afrexim Bank to strengthen the economy, including $3 billion targeted at de-risking the economy. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Uzoke-Anite, said that while delivering an address at the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria Summit at the Presidential Villa. We know that the manufacturers have really been talking these days, led by Mr. Dangote, it seems, at this time. And of course, we had that cancelled yesterday. But she also revealed that the government has attracted $3.5 billion worth of investment into the automotive sector to ensure cheap, affordable cars, while the processing of federal government 75 billion naira bailout funds for the manufacturing sector is being fast-tracked to ensure that the Bank of Industry can begin to disburse the loans. Corporate news now. The board of directors of the telecommunication services company, Emerging Market Telecommunication Company, EMTS, we operate in Nigeria as 9 Mobile. They've announced the appointment of telecoms expert and technology business leader and advisor, Mr. Obafemi Banigbe, as the chief executive officer of the company. Mr. Banigbe succeeds the outgoing CEO, Jorgen Paschel, who will be retained, however, as a consultant to support the business transformation process
initiated under his leadership. The company says this is consistent with Nine Mobile's tradition of business continuity to ease the start of the holistic business transformation for the company. Mr. Baningbe possesses extensive experience at the C-suite level and brings profound comprehension of the intricate African business landscape, emphasizing the critical translation of business objectives and commercial imperatives into comprehensive strategies to drive a successful execution. Now, for some time now, you would have noticed on our business shows, we've been having that campaign on food insecurity. Let's take a look at that, and then we come back to talk about it. We have it, some numbers there, begging answers. Food inflation, heading to 41%. World Food Program saying that 4.4 million people are insecure in the northeastern part of the country. And then you have OCHA saying 26.5 million people will be food insecure this year, 2024. 7 states at crisis level, according to World Bank. And then we have President Bola Tinubu had declared a state of emergency on food insecurity. That was in August last year. We're heading to about a year now. And we asked the question, what's the Minister of Agriculture doing? Well, we don't have the Minister of Agriculture. We would love to have him. We've sent word to him, but we don't have him yet. We do hope we will have the Minister of Agriculture to speak on these issues. For now, we have the Chief Executive Officer of Fortune and Class Limited, Dr. Nii Akinshiju, joins us from our Abuja studio. Let's see, perhaps he can answer some of this question. Dr. Akinshiju, good morning and welcome to Business Morning.
It's a privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So let me ask, we have those numbers. We have those from World Bank, from, World Food Program and all of that. Would you say Nigeria is food insecure or Nigeria is food secure at this time?
Well, I think the figures are clear. When you have up to 40.6% food inflation in a particular month, and I've been graduating actually over a period of 12 months, we can't say that in truth Nigeria is food insecure. It means that many numbers of Nigerians don't have access to cheap food and perhaps even access to nutrient-balanced food too. So that reality is true. It's staring us in the face, but it depends on how we're looking at it. We could look at it as from the scenario of an half-empty cup or from the scenario of an half-filled cup. My own consideration is that we might have gotten something wrong, in terms of the structure of the elements and the stakeholders in the food production chain. The fact is that we need to go visit our constitution, look at the relationship between the tiers of government and how they are, how the responsibility for food production, for agriculture generally, is apportioned amongst the 3 tiers of government. So as far as I'm concerned, what we have now avails us of opportunities because, yes, food production, food inflation is high, but the basic fundamental philosophy in economy is that increase in price or high prices incentivizes production. So we just need to be able to do the right thing in terms of getting proper collaboration amongst the tiers of government, that those especially that are responsible, for food, for agriculture. And I am saying this because I know that in terms of the custody of land, the states are the ones that are invested with the mass of land, in the Nigerian constitution. And to a large extent, the local government, which is the 3rd tier and perhaps the closest, the community-based government, are the ones that are responsible to actually implement agricultural plans and programs, as it were. But we are not witnessing or seeing that, at play over so many years, in the country. So I believe that there's a limited things or limited contributions by the federal government or the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Because to a large extent, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture actually lacks, lacks access to land. And if you also look at a particular figure that says that out of the about 988,000 square kilometers of land, in Nigeria, all that mass of land, are invested in the states. And going beyond that, we have 686,000 square kilometers of arable land. And you can also convert that to hectares, so, which tells us that we have about 78 million hectares of land. And out of this land, just about 44% are being employed, for agriculture. Now, what that tells you is that there's a deficient use, even in the land asset, which is the most important element or factors of agriculture. So I believe that there should be a deliberate relationship, cooperation, collaboration between the federal government, the state government, and the local government.
Yeah, it sounds like you're asking for another coordinating minister right there. Perhaps the Minister of Agriculture should be made the coordinating minister of food security, like we have for finance and the economy, we have for health. Because the truth is, Nigerians are hungry, foodstuffs are really expensive, and there are so many factors feeding into it. But we see the Minister of Agriculture as the person responsible to make this happen. So do we make him a coordinating minister? I know you mentioned the Constitution. Perhaps that will give him the power to be able to coordinate the resources, the land and the space and the skills and environment. Of course, I know there's also the issue of water, for farming. So are you towing that line? But we really need to eat now before we can change the Constitution.
Well, the truth of the matter is it depends. We have a federal system that is largely independent, of each other. That is, the tiers that are largely independent of each other. If the states, for instance, in their wisdom, decide to be territorial, with the power they have over the custody of land that is invested, by the Land Use Act, there is nothing the federal government could do. I believe, I've been an understudy of the federal government and, of course, the food value chain over the years, and I realized that the state government had actually abandoned their responsibility. What you require of the federal government, for instance, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, is to be able to avail farmers, seeds and seedlings, avail farmers products and outcome of research institutions. And I think perhaps I've not been hearing so much along that line, because research is important, to food. And of course, we are also trying to understudy the outcome of the current, or rather the new program on agriculture, technology and innovation. The federal government should be responsible for that implementation. But the context of that implementation still remains the states and the local government. Of course, everybody agrees to a large extent that the local government are non-existent. And where you have local governments that are non-existent, it means that the level, or rather the chain of either what the ministry, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is trying to distribute in terms of fertilizers or some other factors of agricultural input, may not get down to the grassroots. And that is the end point, the exit point of whatever intervention the federal government may be doing. Yes, we agree that if it is possible to have the Minister of Agri become a coordinating minister of agriculture or food security, it makes sense. But I am saying that it depends on the willingness of the states, to surrender, their rights over land, which is the most important factor of agricultural produce. So if that is not available, how do we get the minister? I mean, for instance, we have the 6 governors in the southwest coming together, to talk about intervention in the agri sector. Those are the kind of things we want to see. And of course, we believe that there will be a relationship between these 6 governments and the federal government at the level of the Ministry of Agriculture, where the Ministry of Agriculture will be willing, to support whatever they may want to do. This morning or yesterday, the good news of the 500 billion agri intervention as part of the economic intervention program of the president has also been muted. It means that there will be, over the next 6 months, there will be a 500 billion naira intervention into agriculture to ensure food production. But again, if there is no proper coordination, no proper collaboration between the federal government and the state government, I'm sorry, the scenario that I am seeing is not exactly exciting.
Supposed to lead that collaboration at this point? We do need solution, so who's supposed to lead that? We know that some commissioners from the Southwest, as you mentioned, commissioners of agriculture have come together and all of that. Who's supposed to drive this, and what can we do really to get food on the table of Nigerians?
Well, we need to look at this strictly from the economic point of view. If we have 56% of our land mass yet, to be exploited, and perhaps the states, the tier of government that is in pole position to benefit from this are actually the states. So we believe that there should be an advocacy, and some of us had commenced this over so many years ago, that the states should actually see agriculture as a major exchange earner. Is that a major foreign exchange earner, and of course internal revenue earning platform. So if the states differently, understand the economies of agriculture and the opportunities availed them even at this point in time, the thing is just to drive into it. Now, we see that because of the devaluation, the depreciation of the naira, against currencies in the West African region, there's a movement, of food, of Nigerian produced food into the region. And it does mean that we are earning, either directly or indirectly, formally or informally, the country is earning more from more foreign exchange from that interaction of demand and supply across the region. Now, that is an opportunity for the state, to consciously boost production, boost crop production as a means of earnings. We don't need, state government don't need to wait till the end of every month to come to Abuja, to share. In fact, that should just be a supplementary fund for them. So, yes, there may be need for a driver, but as it is, the law has given power, absolutely, to the states. And of course, we are also hoping that this law, if the state sees such opportunity, as a developmental opportunity, they would consciously again link up with the state, with the local government, because local governments have ministries or department of agriculture. In fact, I know that in each local government there's supposed to be a supervisory council for agriculture. And of course, it's the local government that can relate with the 40 million households that are involved in agriculture in Nigeria. So you have this bulk number of Nigerians that are involved in agriculture, but they are not being properly managed because of that linkage, lack of linkage, deficit linkage between the states and, of course, the local government administration. Those are either we like it or not, those are the things we need to address in the immediate.
All right, Dr. Nia Kishiju, thank you for that. And, well, I guess we would also, I'm going to reach out to a couple of commissioners of agriculture, especially from the Southwest, to tell us the outcome of their meeting and also their own part of the responsibility. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, Nigerians just need food that is affordable and available And we know that insecurity is a major driver in that. You didn't mention that, but we'll leave that for a conversation for another day. Thank you so much for your time. Chief Executive Officer of Fortune and Class Limited. Thank you.
A pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so we're going to talk about the foundation, Citizens Changing Lives Foundation. But before we head to that, let's look at the market numbers. Unfortunately, the NGX closed in the negative yesterday. There you have it, it's down 0.23%, sustaining the 100,000 level. We don't know how long we're going to do that because this looks really shaky. We've lost even up to 100, so it's 100,063.32. Comfortable still at 56 trillion naira, 56.6 trillion naira for the equities cap. Activity yesterday was a mixture, but more of the green. Value was up 15.4%. Deals also look so good. Almost what we have in some weeks, 7,900. It was up more than 12%. Only volume dropped 6.4% there. Sectors, banking is doing so well now. Of course, we know Fidelity is in the bank. Access Co went to the market 2 days ago. So a lot of investment opportunities available, and the banks are milking it. But as investor, you follow the news before you make your decision. But banking is looking so good. Gained yesterday 2.1%. Consumer goods was unchanged. Industrial goods in the red yesterday. Insurance is picking up. This used to be, they are still penny stocks, but these days they're getting a lot of attention. The insurance companies are coming up. I wonder what investors are thinking about heading to insurance. But insurance has been looking good, especially this week, as well as oil and gas. We know O&O right there. I think was it O&O MRS? They moved the market, moved their sector. So a lot of activities going on right there. I don't know if the conversations around Mr. Dangote is driving that with the refinery, but I mean, as an investor, you need to find the information before you make your decision. Top gainers yesterday, there you have it, O&O and Corn Oil. You see, they did that, and then Veriscap also did contribute to that. On the flip side, we had DAR Communication, UPD Credit, and Guinea Insurance. Guinea Insurance right there lost more than 7% at the close of trade. The smaller NASD market yesterday was in the positive, 1% up. Activity was mixed also with 26 deals. But now let's head back to our Abuja studio where we have that Citizens Changing Lives Foundation conversation, and our guests are waiting right there. We're going to understand the workings, the benefits with our guests who are there. We have two of them to discuss that. That's Nick Agule, he's a group head of Citizens Charity, as well as Shido Tarka, manager, Citizens Charity. But let's hear a bit of what they will be talking about before they come on board.
Citizens Charity is licensed by the federal government to raise funds for charitable causes using a raffle scheme overseen by the National Lottery Regulatory Commission that has been making headlines for its remarkable impact on communities nationwide. Citizens Charity has disbursed over 10 million naira to beneficiaries in 8 consecutive draws. Other beneficiaries have been awarded various sums. So far, 1,765 Nigerians have been empowered under the scheme. The scheme operates by Nigerians buying tickets for 200 naira each to stand a chance for financial empowerment and also collectively changing the fortunes of communities across Nigeria with sustainable development projects in education, healthcare, agriculture, water, infrastructure, and more. To be part of the scheme, visit www.citizenscharity.org, where you can get raffle tickets or donate financial or material support for charitable causes in Nigeria. There are also opportunities to register as retailers, sell tickets and earn 20% commission. Draws are held live on all NTA stations. The next draws is on Saturday, 8 June 2024, at which 5.5 million naira will be shared to lucky beneficiaries who buy tickets. Visit the website www.citizenscharity.org. To know more, call 020-1887-0019 or WhatsApp at 070-1405-5747 for support. At Citizens Charity, changing lives is our passion.
So there you have it. That's what we're going to talk about, Citizens Charity. And we have those two guests from that organization, Nika Gule, Group Head, Citizens Charity, and Shido Tarka, Manager of Citizens Charity. Good morning, gentleman and lady, and thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Ini, and nice to be here.
Great. So tell us, Nick, about Citizens Charity. We see you have some goodies for Nigerians.
Yes, indeed. Citizens Charity is a federal government licensed crowdfunding platform for Nigerians to not just be speaking about the issues in the country, but coming together with our little contributions of 200 naira that we use in empowerment programs across the nation. Citizen Charity has been licensed, so there are so many things that we do as a charity. You can come on our platform and donate to specific projects like scholarships for indigent children, especially the girl child. You can donate items. You can also volunteer with us. But one of the flagship programs that we run is a raffle scheme where people donate with a ticket of 200 naira, and we run draws on a monthly basis for now, which are broadcast live on the NTA. The next draw is actually going to be tomorrow, 6th of July. It will be broadcast on the NTA at 8 o'clock in the morning on all NTA stations. So the raffle aspect of the scheme is the one that requires licensing. So we actually approached the National Lottery Regulatory Commission, who licensed us. And anytime we have our draws, you can see the price categories for tomorrow's draws. If those who bought tickets and have 6 matches, the prize money is 4 million. Those with 5 matches is 600,000. Those with 4 matches will be 500,000. 3 matches will be 400,000. And tickets with 2 matches will get a free ticket. As you can see, that's us receiving our licensing from the federal government as represented by Honorable Gbajamiala, who is the Executive Secretary of the National Lottery Regulatory Commission. And here we have the pillars that we are working with. And so this is what we stand for. We are here, we are legit, and we are coming across to Nigerians to join hands with us so that we can be part of the solution of the problems in this country.
All right, let's have Shido now. Shido, some people are not very positive in their sentiments with gambling. Is this same as gambling? How is it different?
Okay, can you go over your question again, please?
How is this different from gambling?
Okay. Citizens Charity is not gambling. Just like the group head said, this is an opportunity for us to collectively change lives together. So we're talking of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a lot of people coming together to say, let's take the decision with our little contributions here and there to change the fortunes of our community. So we're talking about 200 naira, collectively changing the fortunes of our community together. So it's about crowdfunding, but in this case, we're talking about crowdfunding for charity. So it's definitely not gambling. And we discourage people bringing a whole lot of money, maybe money you want to use for something very important, and then you now bring it to, say you want to buy a lot of tickets because you are sure that you are going to win or something like that. So it's not gambling at all. It is donation. And we say we call people who buy these tickets, we call them donors because they are donating for charity.
Okay, so when people buy these tickets and then you do the draws, they win stuff after the announcement as the one you said you have tomorrow?
Yes, so perhaps maybe we'll take a step back. We have this slide that talks about our pillars. We have 4 pillars. So when the money is coming, when these donations come in with the 200 naira that citizens use in purchasing tickets, we put them in 4 different buckets. And the first bucket, of course, goes to the federal government because they are the ones that licensed us to do what we're doing. And a percentage of of the donations needs to go to the National Lottery Trust Fund, which is the federal government's own charity. Then, of course, the second pillar is job creation. As we speak today, we have people, young men and women in Nigeria who have been employed, who are working in the back offices for the scheme, and they are gainfully employed. And then, of course, the third pillar is the financial empowerment of Nigerians. And that is the one that, in a transparent manner, we select those who will be empowered through the draw process, which will happen tomorrow. And then, of course, the last and biggest bucket is that as more Nigerians come onto the scheme, imagine that 1 million Nigerians donate their 200 naira by getting a ticket. That is 200 million. That is the kind of money that we will use in empowering our communities in healthcare, education, agriculture, infrastructure, water, electricity, job creation, and all of that. So very soon, as more Nigerians come on the scheme, you begin to see in various communities across Nigeria projects that are being sponsored by Citizen Charity, and these will be from the 200 naira that Nigerians are donating. Of course, 200 naira, if we spend it individually, can only buy us like some granite or some piece of cake. It won't do much. But this platform, as licensed by the federal government, is here now for us to be able to come together as Nigerians and be part of the solutions of this country.
All right, Nick, maybe you should just give us your final words. I'm sure you want to emphasize where people can reach you or how people can reach you.
Okay, can we go over the question again?
People can reach you.
Okay, to get across and get your ticket, visit our website. It's www.citizenscharity.org. You can also go ahead and call us because we want to actually hear from you and, of course, support you to get the tickets. So 020-188-700-700-19. So I'll take the number again. That's 020-188-700-19. You can also WhatsApp 070-1405-5747 for support.
All right, thank you so much, Shido, for that information, and Nick. And we wish you the best to your draw tomorrow and subsequent activities towards contributing, to the lives and economic welfare of Nigerians.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to head back to the Sunrise Daily Studios, but that's a commercial break in between before we will have Nelta, Ayo, and Kayla back to have a conversation with you.
That said, let me very sincerely, on behalf of the 10th River State House of Assembly, thank the Court of Appeal for standing by our democracy. Nigeria is a country that is governed under democratic tenets. What the Court of Appeal did today is to reaffirm our faith in this country, to reaffirm our faith in this country's democracy. So we thank the Court of Appeal for the interpretations they've done to some of the legal issues, to some of the matters concerning the River State House of Assembly and, of course, River State in general. So we thank Mr. President for what he's doing for this country. Again, we must say thank you to the President's Cabinet, particularly the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, for what he's doing in the FCT, giving Mr. President the support that Mr. President deserves to continue to put this country on the path of fast development. So we thank the FCT Minister for what he's doing in supporting Mr. President and for what he's doing for the peace of Rivers State by being the political leader of Rivers State.
And indeed, that's where we're kicking off the conversation from that matter at the appeal court yesterday. Joining us to have this conversation, we have Mr. Chidi Lloyd, former member, Rivers State House of Assembly, a former local government chairman, a lecturer at the Department of Private and Public Law, University of UNEC, that's University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Lloyd. I'm not sure whether you graduated from the UNEC, but since you're lecturing there, let me just say I greet you, fellow Lion. But let's go straight into the matter of that. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, so that matter yesterday at the Court of Appeal. Now, that judgment, based on Section 272(3) of the Constitution. Let's hear your reaction. We've already heard from Mr. Ameule commending the appeal court for that ruling. But let's hear from you, Mr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Inota, for having me, and thank you. Good morning, Nigerians. I'd like to start by making a few corrections to your intro. I am no longer a lecturer at the University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. I've said so severally. And I am the chairman of our local government and a former member of the Rivers State House of Assembly. I'd like to first and foremost align myself with the sentiments that have been expressed by the Right Honorable Martins Chike Amehule, the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, as to our continued faith in the judiciary. Judiciary has always been said to be the last hope of the common man. These days, most people have joked that it is no longer just the common man that has the last hope in the judiciary. Even the rich run to the judiciary when there are disputes. So yesterday, again, the Court of Appeal, in a unanimous judgment, affirmed what most of us had said is the correct interpretation of the law, that Justice C.M. Wale, ab initio, had no jurisdiction to entertain the matter for which he dabbled on and made the pronouncements that nearly would have inflamed the state. And that is why, listening to your colleague in the studio when she asked a question as to where all of this keeps the country, she asked if in a sister program this morning, are there issues that have been raised, constitutional issues that have been raised as a result of all of the things that are happening? Yes, of course. There are quite a lot of issues. What will happen to judges, judicial officers who knowing that they have no jurisdiction to hear a matter, entertain the matter, and go ahead to make pronouncements that are capable of inflaming a state or exacerbating an already exacerbated situation. So we thank God for the Court of Appeal. There is nothing on the way of Martins Amehule and his colleagues from continuing to make law for the good governance of the people of Rivers State. Recall that everybody knows that Section 272(3) acts as an abstract clause that stops the State High Court from them entertaining issues that relates to the defection or otherwise tenure of members of the state as houses of assembly, and especially Section 68 sub G for those of the National Assembly members. So which gave rise to the case of Abegunle against Abegunle against Ondo State House of Assembly. The courts have made pronouncements in this regard, but we keep having the likes of King Lear in what reminds me of my literature when I read King Lear, one of the books written by William Shakespeare. Some others do have them. We still have situations like this where people...
Mr. Lloyd, If I may interrupt you here, you've aligned your sentiments with that of Mr. Amewule and on the position of the appeal court, that ruling on the jurisdiction of the State High Court on this matter. But is there no other case? Is this the only case that is before the courts? I don't understand that there is a case before a federal high court here in Abuja about the defection of the 25 members or thereabout from the River State House of Assembly.
There are plethora of cases. What has happened in North is that soon after the political solution to these problems, after we met with Mr. President, and we all got back to the state, the governor of the state, with due respect, held a statewide broadcast where he told the state that nothing was too much for peace, and that all that had happened, including the eight-item solutions that were proffered to the problems in the state by Mr. President, was not a death sentence. Then, all of a sudden, we now find the government of Rivers State begin to sponsor people to approach the cause in different ways. So, in order that we have not less than 200 cases, as I speak to you now, if I'm correct, bordering on different subject matters.
Just hold on. The matter before the Federal High Court in Abuja was actually filed by Mr. Amewule himself. Do you know about that one?
That's what I'm telling you. There was a matter filed by Mr. Amewule, whose judgment was given by Justice J.K. Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, and judgment has since been delivered in January of 2024.
All right, Mr. Lloyd.
That has been flagrantly disobeyed. The government of Rivers State continues to be in contempt of that judgment, because in the Omotosho's judgment, there were mandatory declarations, mandatory orders that were made. For instance, that the job of the State Assembly will not be hampered in any way. Funds to it will not be seized in any way. The governor will not be seen to be doing anything that will be inimical to the discharge of the functions of the State Assembly. So the governor and government of Rivers State have continued to be in contempt of the judgment of Justice J.K. Omotosho.
All right, Mr. Chidi Lloyd, I want to be able to, because we do have just a few minutes for this segment. Let's talk a bit about that judgment of yesterday. For many people, this is not a reinstatement of the 25 state lawmakers. This is a judgment on jurisdiction and not a reinstatement of these men. What's your take on that?
But my take is that I just laughed. Now, what was the situation before the Right Honorable Amewule went to court? The Justice C.N. Wale came out and said he had expelled the Speaker and 24 others from the State Assembly. So if this is not a restatement, I wonder what it is. The Court of Appeal has nullified, that is the word, my sister, all that was done by Justice C.N. Wale, pursuant to the provisions of Section 272, sub 3 of the...
So what actions do you think should, in your view, since you say it's a reinstatement, what should happen next with Amewule and the 24?
The Speaker and members of the State Assembly will hit the ground running and continue to make laws for the good governance of Rivers State.
All right, so let's talk about this conflicting... Let's talk about this River State High Court. You just mentioned right now, that it's brought up, and my colleague, of course, on the morning brief talked about it. This has brought up the question that we've been asking about courts not having jurisdiction, making, rulings that in the end have to be nullified, and then we have all of this going up and down. What do you think should happen in the case of this River State High Court, that the Court of Appeal has said they didn't have the jurisdiction, and saying that it's only the Federal High Court in Abuja that has the jurisdiction to declare a seat vacant or not?
My sister, I watched you closely when you were discussing the Edo State issue. And I saw a senior lawyer laboring to avoid the questions you were asking, hiding under the view that he is part of it. Now, what will happen, my dear sister, is that the disciplinary measures of the judiciary should be activated to punish judges who continue to act or traverse their powers and bring the judiciary to public odium. It is so sad. It's so sad. It pains me a lot, especially as a lawyer that I am, that a man clearly knows he has no jurisdiction, except of course, it goes a long way to talk about the depth of some of these judges, with due respect.
All right. Well, we would like to.
How do you explain? How do you explain that a judge does not know that there is a fourth and fifth alteration to the Constitution? And it goes a long way to talk about the previous judgments of this same judge.
Let's see if we can bring in Mr. Felix. Mr. Felix Oguche.
Just a minute.
Yes.
You have another judge of coordinate jurisdiction in the person of Justice Okomole Basam, who approached with the same issue, says, I have no jurisdiction. I have an issue. You get the point. So it puts us in a lot of very dire position as lawyers and as members in the Temple of Justice.
All right, Mr. Felix Oguche, let's get your views as well on this particular matter. So you've heard from Mr. Chidi Lloyd. Where do you stand on all that's happened?
Dr. Chidi Lloyd, please. Dr.
Chidi Lloyd, thank you so much. Mr. Oguche, talk to us a bit about where you stand on everything you've heard Dr. Chidi Lloyd say.
Yes, thanks very much for inviting me. Maybe let me first of all correct one impression. My name is Festus Oguche, not Felix Oguche. I think the issue is very straightforward. That a court had been found to have extended or gone beyond its jurisdiction in granting an ex parte order. And the matter went to the Court of Appeal on that basis, and the Court of Appeal found that, well, you lack the jurisdiction to have granted it in the first place. And I think that's where the matter ends, because the issue before the court is on jurisdiction, and the court are taking care of it. In the first place, the lower court did not even go into the issue of the substantive matter, because we were still at the ex parte stage, interlocutory stage. The motion on notice had not even been heard. And ordinarily, I would have thought that all the parties should have been heard. Another of that nature cannot be granted ex parte, as far as I'm concerned. And there's been a lot of practice directions to that effect, that ex parte orders are not to be granted arbitrarily. I would say it is arbitrary, but then the Court of Appeal has come to give interpretation to the law. And as far as I'm concerned, that is where it ends. It does not give anybody any right or any power. It doesn't restore anybody or reinstate the 25 members of the House of Assembly who have defected back to their positions, because the Court of Appeal never said anything beyond the issue of jurisdiction. Once it has done that, it's a threshold issue. That's the end of the matter. The chapter is closed. Anybody who's aggrieved can go to the Court of Appeal, or if they want to maybe move a bit more appropriately, they can go and file a fresh action before the Federal High Court for interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution. I would not say that the judge is totally out of the way. In spite of Section 272 sub 3, that particular provision is talking about vacancy, not necessarily defection. I think it is when the Supreme Court gives a wholesome interpretation to it that we begin to understand its entrails, to the nitty-gritty of what it means. Because I would think that issues of that nature must align with the structure of the state system, the judicial mechanism within the state system, even though there's a provision in the Constitution that also says that the National Assembly can look into the issues of vacancy, but vacancy may not necessarily pander to or pertain to defection. And the crux of the matter there is on defection. And I would say that Section 272 sub 3, even though it has come to the aid of some persons, is something that I would consider a misnomer, because we are trying to move away from the highly centralized political system we are in the federal structure that we are practicing, to something that will give the state some shade of authority. Issues concerning the House of Assembly should be matters within the jurisdiction of the state high courts. Well, be that as it may, the Constitution has said it, and the Court of Appeal has given its opinion, decision on it, and I know that a lot of people have contrary opinion, and we look forward that the Supreme Court will give a decision that will take care of it whole and entire. But to the extent that I understand, it doesn't give anybody any right, it doesn't give any of the parties, it doesn't give recognition to either of the two factions of the Houses of Assembly or the House of Assembly of Rivers State. The three-member structure cannot claim that they're entitled to a constitutional validity, and as well as the 25-member House of Assembly led by a neighbor. They cannot also make such claim, constitutionally speaking. I understand that so many other issues are cropped up, like you mentioned the matter before the Federal High Court that is pending. But that is the issue is very straightforward, that we cannot get something out of nothing. It's only God that created the world from nothing. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Guche, so what then is the implication of this decision of the court? So you have said now, on the one hand, that the court didn't quite talk about vacating or not vacating office. The court only spoke about jurisdiction. Now, it is also said in legal parlance, correct me if I'm wrong, that you don't put anything, you can't put something on nothing. So if the courts that vacated or purportedly vacated the seats of these lawmakers had no jurisdiction, what does that imply?
It implies that, first of all, that the issue of jurisdiction, like I said, is threshold, and it's at the apex of the constitution of the issues. If the court vacated the position of the lawmakers and their defection is still subsistent, a defection that judicial notice of will be taken, a defection that we are all aware of, even though they made a detour in the middle of the sea to say that they did not defect. It is all clear that there was a defection. That constitutional provision is self-executing. People prefer me to use the word self-executory, but that's not the appropriate word. It is self-executing. You don't even need any interpretation of the court to effect the provisions of that particular provision relating to defection. Once you defect from one political party to the other, if you are going to an elective position, you have lost it. In the United States, in England, in advanced democracies, once you do that, in England, once a member of parliament jumps ship, the next thing is the conduct of by-elections. It happens automatically. So I don't think it is even necessary. Some of the parties have gone to court asking one such matter is before the Honorable Justice Obile of the Federal High Court here in Port Harcourt. Another is before the Honorable Justice Abdul Malik at the Federal High Court. Fill those vacant positions. I don't think it is necessary. That's being on the side of supplicity. And nobody necessarily have to wait for anybody, to ventilate his right in court before elections are conducted. Upon the conduct of elections, they can go into a post-election adjudication process to challenge that election on the basis that there was vacancy. That's if you are convinced that there was no vacancy. So that there's a proviso to Section 191, if I'm correct, on defections, does not make it automatic that all hands will have to wait. The system will have to stop for you to ventilate your rights in court for an election to be conducted. So as far as I'm concerned, the implication of that judgment is simply that the lower court lacks jurisdiction to entertain that matter. That decision is still subject to challenge at appropriate judicial quarters, particularly the Supreme Court, because people have contrary opinions like that to it. But then it does not restore anything, does not restore anybody, it does not cancel the defection already effected by the 25 members of the House of Assembly. It does not give them any right or power to be reinstated to that position or to be restored to that position. That's the crux of the matter, and we must understand it simply from the point of view that the Constitution has certain provisions that cannot be ignored, cannot be kept in abeyance, particularly that particular provision relating to political parties and the conduct of their members, particularly those ones that are elected and who wants to jump ship, who prefers to jump ship, particularly if they did it voluntarily. Nobody pushed them into it.
I'm not aware that
Thank you so much, Mr. Festus Oguche, a legal practitioner, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us this morning. And Dr. Chidi Lloyd, former member, Rivers State House of Assembly, former lecturer, Department of Private and Public Law, University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, and as you said, a local government chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in this morning. And that is where we'll say thank you for letting us be a part of your morning. It's been a fantastic 1 week running. It's been a marathon, and I think that's ending on a legal note. I will be spending the weekend thinking about all the legalities of that's going back and forth and the politics that there is out there. Thank you so much. I'm Neota Igbe.
I don't know what Ayo did to deserve that straight bullet this month, but Ayo, I am on your side.
It's not straight.
Have a great, it wasn't straight, it was direct. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'm Kayla Magwa.
Well, Kayla, maybe it's one of those things that the courts have to decide. I'm just hoping this time it will be direct and will not be confusing. Amaya Makide, do have a beautiful weekend.